I know I've gotten a lot of new subscribers here, but did y'all know that while I do talk about video games, I also more like talked about manga. I made a lot of videos about it, and I guess I'm still making more because you know what I like? Manga. And this is my channel, and I get to decide what I do with it. That means today's video is about a familiar name, that being Nagabe. I've mentioned at least almost all of his manga before, like Smell, Bochua Oni, and even Monotone Blue. But it's time we cover something a little different. Its name being Love on the Other Side, a Nagabe short story collection. It's an anthology series, and before you ask, yes, I am shameless enough to define it for the umpteenth time. An anthology series is a single work made up of a bunch of smaller stories, usually connected through either world, character, or theme. For example, Paru Itagaki's Beastars spin-off Beast Complex is an anthology series, alongside Love, Death and Robots being a TV anthology. The connecting theme and idea of Love on the Other Side is interspecies relationships, and it explores it in its own unique way with each story. The first of these stories I'd like to talk about, mostly because it's the first story in the book, is Daisy Mata Ashita, or See You Tomorrow Daisy. This story follows a young woman named Gerda who waits at a flower pasture for the giant crow named Daisy. The relationship between the two is honestly really cute in a fairy tale kind of way. There's this lingering sense of halcyon unreality to the entire dynamic, like Daisy bringing Gerda shiny objects, which, fun fact, crows don't actually do. If they do get a shiny object, they're more attracted to the object itself than its reflective qualities, so I suppose that will be Fury's fun fact for the day. That's combined with the very, standard dynamic between the two characters. Gerda brings Daisy sandwiches, and when she opens up about her personal vulnerabilities, he tumbles her down the hill like it's the Princess Bride to diffuse the tension.
Die too, for all I care.
Oh. As you wish.
Oh, my sweet Wesley, what have I done? Ow. Oh.
Yeah, I think the Princess Bride is a really good point of comparison since they both have the same storybook feel to them. There's this idyllic wholesomeness to the entire relationship that really comes to light at the end of the chapter. When we learn that Gerda is chronically ill but has recently gotten a lot better, even gaining a sunny disposition. Does she perhaps have a sweetheart somewhere? A question that's enough to make Gerda blush and think of the crow. I will say, it's definitely a little weird to have the romantic relationship be with a giant crow, intelligence of it yet to be decided, but I also feel like that's a large part of why the unreality is so important. It assuages the worries of things like common sense, making us stop asking how this works and focus more on the message the fairy tale is trying to deliver. The message of See You Tomorrow Daisy is in its name. It's all about Gerda finding strength to carry on despite her disease thanks to companionship. It makes for a story that's very cute, but at the same time a little lacking in depth, but that doesn't particularly matter because I say once again, it is fairly short. It's similar to another, more fleshed out story in the same work, but it's one I'll get to later. The second story in this collection is Okami Ningen 2 Ningen Okami, or Wolfman and the Girl Wolf. And it is a story I am not touching with a 10-foot pole. Mostly because I do not want to moderate that comment section. Read it for yourself and find out why. I just have better things to do with my life than deal with, all of that. In its place, I found some Furry Yaoi, also written by Nagabe, to take its place. There, I've said the magic words. Do I have your attention, or do I need to keep jangling these keys by saying gay Furry Yaoi a bunch of times? This gay Furry Yaoi's name being Gab. Hebi Tuneko, or Gap, Cobra and Cat. This manga's concept is simple. There's a cat named Gap and a cobra named Bra. Slight side note, the cobra is flat-chested, so I'm feeling scammed by the fact that he's called Bra. And this side note is the opposite of slight, as you may have been able to tell from the page staring at your face for the last 10 seconds? I guess I didn't read this page, but can you blame me? I mean, Gap is the thing in big fucking letters right here. I would have just gone back and changed all the lines if I didn't say Gap a whole fucking bunch and make that a whole pain in the ass to do. So, fuck. I guess we're just gonna have to live with this mistake now. That is my bad. And the two of them are in a relationship. The one shot is like genuinely super short, not even cracking double-digit pages, with the majority of it essentially being quick one-page jokes or interactions. The focus is on how these two very different creatures get by in their relationship, such as Bra wanting to swallow Gap, not even for vor reasons, but for kink reasons. So yeah, I suppose that does count as for vor reasons. Or how having sexy fun times together is very hard when Gap has to travel so far down. It's not bad and cute in its own way, but the manga does have a second plot thread that I do find much more interesting. That being discrimination, because it's made clear that it's weird to see both a cobra and a cat together. Gap himself gets derisive comments, but a lot of it is focused on reptiles and especially Bra, who's a snake. We even see Gap and Bra meet during what I can only call a race rider pogrom. You'd think I'm joking, but I'm really not. Like, Jesus Christ, I thought the race relations in Zootopia and Beastars were bad. Like I said before, the manga is literally just a few pages, so you can knock it out in like 5-minute stops, probably way less if you read at a decent speed. It's a unique manga because I've really only seen Beastars put a focus on interspecies relationships like this. But in Gap, the differences are the main focus to a much greater extent. If you've got like any time to kill, then this manga isn't half bad. Getting back to love stories from the other side, we have my favorite short story of the bunch, Maonaka no Waltz, or Midnight Waltz. Future Fear here, realizing he's a dumb baby and accidentally did this out of order, because Midnight Waltz is the 4th story in this collection, but hey, already overcommitted, so I guess we're just doing this. The story is all about Gula, the master of a lonely house in the woods, who's been holding balls every night for his single friend, Kali. He is a little weird though, having the ability to walk upside down and even talk to animals. It's fine for the most part, but does cause a few problems, like when Kali makes a gift for him, it's a little hard for him to see in the mirror because he doesn't have a reflection. That's because all the animals have a secret. They know that Gula is a vampire who was abandoned by his family to this woodland mansion. A secret that the animals absolutely must not let him find out, but I'll let you guess whether or not they succeed. I know I bring this up a lot, especially in relation to Nagabe's manga, but it's true, and I think this is perhaps when the entire vibe is most strongly felt, because this entire story reads like one of Aesop's fables. From the moral lesson at the end to the talking animal characters, this story is quite literally a fable. A lot of stories within this anthology deal with different kinds of loves, and this one, while it is focused on romantic love with Kali, also deals with self-love in regards to Gula's place in the world, revealing that his humanity is found not in his appearance or abilities, but instead in his relationships. It's honestly a very sappy romance, but the single story is short enough that it doesn't really wear on you. Keeping in touch with the fairy tale themes and similarities, this one has a lot of similarities to Beauty and the Beast, where it's all about a monstrous protagonist who lives alone in a giant home with his wacky companions. And despite the protagonist's appearance, it's love and affirmation from the one they desire that affirms their humanity. Perhaps it's the fact that I love Beauty and the Beast which makes me consider this the best story in the collection. Gula is genuinely good-hearted, and so are the animals, so it creates this nice tension. We want to root for Gula and his concerns about his nature, but at the same time we sympathize with the animals for not telling him. There are two good sides that we are simultaneously rooting for despite them essentially being opposed. They're afraid of how he'll react to learning he's a monster due to his age and inexperience, but then we have a third side to this conflict, Kali, who acts as a bridge between the two opposing sides, offering a resolution to make a tight, succinct story. Moving on to the actual third story, we have another really good one, its name being Hijishoku to Gojisho, or Emergency Rations and Bountiful Feast. Its protagonist never gets a name, so we'll just call him Vulture. What makes Vulture worth following is that he had a bit of luck recently and found some live prey, who he has dubbed Emergency Rations. Emergency Rations seems none the wiser to the bird's true intentions. She doesn't understand his words, let alone what it means when he puts a fork and knife to her neck. All she knows is that this is the bird feeding and taking care of her. The little girl even draws a picture of the two of them together like it means something to Vulture. But wait a minute, maybe it does actually mean something, because the story ends with him reneging on his plans for emergency rations, and the picture she drew on his desk. This chapter isn't the longest in the manga, and I honestly feel a little sad about that fact because it is one of the stronger stories. I think the composition of some of these panels, while not revolutionary, is done really well to sell the devious nature of the bird. He has ulterior designs and motives for the girl he's taking care of, viewing her as food, and the fact that he only uses utensils when he thinks about actually killing her sells that idea. Even in his dialogue with how open he is about what he plans to do, reveling in the fact that she can't understand him. Yet, when she wraps her arms around him, there's this shift as it realizes how much emergency rations, the girl he raised, actually means to him. I want to say the concept is trite, but I can't actually name anything else with this idea. So I suppose it's better to say the idea isn't ingenious, but the delivery certainly is well done. I already mentioned the framing, but I also want to point out his book about humans, which the audience can take as a sign of how much the vulture doesn't actually know. He's supposedly unaware of what a smile means, only doing it to earn more trust from emergency rations, yet we can see him doing it repeatedly throughout the manga, showing that her expressions are beginning to genuinely rub off on him. In regard to love, this story is all about familial love and Vulture learning what it is. I don't want to speak about it too much because it's not that deep nor is it that complicated, but depth and complexity aren't necessary for a good story. Demon Slayer and all of its awards are proof enough of that. The next story we have is called Shiro no Osama, or The White King. This story is all about a boy with albinism, which causes his hair to be white, and his relationship with a very similar white lion at the zoo. The white lion often regales the boy with tales of his kingliness, which serves as a stark contrast to the sad, downtrodden life the boy leads. The white lion really is the only bright spot in his life, which is why it's so devastating when he learns the truth of the white lion's situation. That he's no king, that he was illegally poached, that the reason he has his own cage isn't because he's special, it's because the other lions won't accept him. That whole being a king thing is really just a marketing strategy by the owner of the zoo. It's a devastating revelation, and it takes some time for the boy to work up the nerve to go back to the lion. However, despite the lion's usual affectations, the time part really did get to him, and the two resolve to run away together as the story ends. This story is the most direct of the entire anthology when it comes to the theme of love. Our two protagonists just straight up have a conversation about it, and one of the bigger questions presented is, what is love? Okay, so I planned to originally play a clip of What is Love by Hadaway here for the joke, you know, what is love, baby don't hurt me, and all that, but who'd have guessed that part is super duper copyrighted, so just like, do me a favor and imagine it because YouTube won't let me play it, okay? The answer presented to us within the text appears to be that of companionship. That love is found in the person you can't go without, no matter what. Although I think you should call me Megami Fushiguro with the way there's an elephant in the room we need to address, that being the relationship between the lion and the boy, which appears to be overtly romantic. It's weird, but once more I think it manages to slide by thanks to the overall vibe of the story and work, resembling a fairy tale. The story is mired in unreality, like the lion being able to talk and stuff despite the fact that he's not even anthro. And the fact that it seems like only the lion is capable of talking as well, since we don't see any other animal or anything do it. Even the ending seems fanciful as they walk off into the savannah sunset without an explanation of how they got there. I suppose you could say weird things are easier to ignore when it's far from the only piece of logic or common sense done away with. The final story is the longest by far, and it's called Mianai Hitotachi, or Those Without Eyes. Both of our protagonists here don't have names, so I'll have to be literal. This short story is about a blind girl who finds herself in the care of a monster. She was actually abandoned to the woods by her family and has no choice to try and stay in the beast's good graces. She has no idea why it's using corpses to pretend to be human, but that is just another thing she has to pretend not to notice. Escaping is hard because she is still blind, and if she's caught, it drives the monster into a frenzy. But when she does escape, instead of freedom or home, the only thing she finds are wolves, which the monster ends up protecting her from, and thus we get the big reveal. The monster was not malicious at all, it was just a lonely creature that can't speak and only learned how fragile humans are after accidentally killing one. Thus, the two reconcile and the story has a happy ending. I really like this story mostly because the nature of its premise is multifaceted. On one hand, it directly references the blind girl, but it's also indicative of the monster who's blind to relationships and has no idea how to actually get the companionship it seeks. And then it loops back around to the girl because she's also blind to the monster's true nature alongside the rest of the village. It's also a good reveal for how it reframes the monster's actions, like why he tilted when she almost escaped. He knew there were wolves out there and didn't want her to get herself killed. In regards to love, this is another story where it's about platonic love rather than romantic love. It's one where both our protagonists are trying to find someone in the world who can stand beside them. I also want to say here is where I think Nagabe's skill as an artist are shown the best. I know this is gonna sound a little weird, but I think the part where the girl gets jumped by the wolves is actually my favorite. As she gets attacked, the background goes dark, indicative of the horde of wolves around her, but later we get the reveal that at some point the monster started protecting her. It even takes advantage of the manga trope of using black borders to indicate a flashback, interspersing that in this entire event. It's some really effective and really creative composition to blend 3 sequential actions all into a few pages, finding a way to surprise the blind girl but also the reader when the monster starts protecting her. I don't particularly have anything more to say about Those Without Eyes, so I suppose that's where I'll close this video out. This entire short story collection is really good and reminds me of why I always keep coming back to Nagabe's work. His art is unique and his ability to tell a story flourishes when it's a short story. This anthology is also nice and varied. Rather than having a singular note, we have a variety of stories dealing with a similar topic in their own way. If you see this manga at whatever store you frequent, I recommend you pick it up. I've also included an Amazon link in the description because I'm awesome like that. Special shout out to Wolfrix, McCoides, Garen LaFay, Charon, and Zora Chow, the Radical Squadron. Thank you all for watching. Do be sure to like and subscribe. As always, I'm your host Furry, signing out.